How do you deal with like the sickening feeling that accompanies all this, especially with Palestine? Chatters, I've told you this already. Being a leftist is being on the right side of history, being correct but too early, and also constantly getting yelled at, constantly engaging in constantly talking about things that are directly at odds with the powers that with the pre-existing hierarchy. You're gonna lose a lot. Okay, that's it. You're gonna lose a lot. So get ready for it. But just as long as you know that your moral compass is correct and you don't lose yourself to the whims of I don't know, wanting a tiny bit of victory in the short term, you just have to keep putting your best foot forward with the knowledge that you're doing the right thing and you're doing right by others. That's it. Like Jank and Anna lol. I mean, I've talked about this a lot. Reactionary thought is alluring. So when you start training your brain to believe things from a reactionary point of view, you start basically it's the opposite of muscle training, right? If you don't actually constantly work out, you're inevitably going to become a weaker person. Your muscles are going to go away and then maybe even be replaced with fat. Okay? That's how I feel about critical thinking. If you engage in critical thinking and you constantly do it and you apply it all the time, okay, you cause that muscle not to atrophy. Reactionary thinking, on the other hand, is atrophy, and it slowly creeps in. It slowly creeps in, and it can be on a number of different issues. It can be on Israel, Palestine. And as long as it's left unaddressed, I think for many people, they still can fancy themselves to be progressive, except for Palestine, and go along with it for years and years. But obviously, the events that have unfolded over the past 16 months have caused those contradictions to be in the forefront, which are causing people's brains to collapse. For others, it can be about crime, right? You see crime taking place in front of you and you just kind of lose it, where you go, oh my God, this is like a genuinely emotionally traumatic moment. Why is nobody doing something to address this? And then that's when reactionary thinking kicks in. Reactionary thinking, right-wing thinking, is illogical. It's emotional, okay? You don't care about facts. You don't care about empirical evidence. You care about your own personal feelings and your own broad reception, okay? So when something happens to you that is genuinely traumatic, it's understandable that something in your brain shifts where you no longer think about this issue through these systemic solutions, but simply want to deal with it head on, immediately, instantly, take matters into your own hands, or the only systematic solution to it is through a mechanism of enforcement that is more rigid than the past. Okay? Reactionary thinking is a puzzle piece that fits in every argument, okay? In every single argument. You always go, oh, I know the reason for this. It's DEI. You know what I mean? I know the reason for this. It's black people. I know the reason for this. It's women. I know why something is happening that is bad. It's because insert whatever puzzle piece that you want to put in there, that reactionaries put in there, their daily flavor. Okay? It's illegals. And the interesting part about that is that it's a captivating way of thinking. It's comforting. It's comforting to feel like you have the answer. It's comforting to feel like you are aware of all of the issues and that their solutions almost always are just someone else. And especially when that someone else is marginalized, then it's much easier to tackle that problem. That's it.
Do you think that conversation can lend itself to the type of freeze that it meant for the tariffs for Canada and Mexico?
There are a lot of people who act like they're doing the world a favor by publicly espousing progressive politics, but the moment it affects them personally, they go full-blown reactionary because they now actually address their own biases. They just said everything you wanted them to say. Yeah, and I think that is actually part of the reason why it's pure projection when, like, Anna or other people will say like Hasan is totally captive. He's a slave to his audience. Am I radicalizing my audience because I'm a, socialist who loves undermining American empire by doing acts of terror, and I'm actually radicalizing my audience? Or is it actually that I'm a captive to my audience? I'm a slave to my audience, and I have to portray my point of view. Maybe it's neither of those things. Maybe these are genuine opinions that I hold, and I'm uncompromising and routinely yell at my own audience all the time when they say some silly shit. It makes no sense, but it doesn't have to make sense. So when someone like Anna says like Hasan is a slave to his audience, or Destiny used to say this all the time too, Epstiny, Sexpestiny, Hasan is audience captured. Hasan is audience captured. When they say stuff like this, it's actually projection. It's no different than saying you're virtue signaling, right? You're coming to the conclusion that the values that I'm espousing are virtuous, but I simply cannot truly mean it. I must be doing it for some cynical reason. Because if you were in that similar predicament, you'd be doing it for a cynical reason. As a matter of fact, maybe you are actually advocating for the things that you're advocating for some cynical reason right now. That's all this is. Okay? And I think for a lot of people, it truly stems from personal vendettas. It stems from personal insecurities. And I think people, maybe I'm like a little too autistic, okay? But for me, I care about your output more than the personal back and forth that we have. There are plenty of content creators who have treated me not so great. And I'm always going to be gracious until it gets to a point where they're just like so overtly hostile that they are deliberately playing the role. Ethan isn't being cynical though. He does think you're racist, but he's also very stupid. Okay. That's not, I wasn't even necessarily talking about Ethan here, but that's funny that you said that. Okay. The point I was trying to make is maybe it's the autism in me, but I don't necessarily care about like envy as much as I, do I feel envious? Sure. Okay. From time to time, certainly. Okay. Did you watch the full video and fire Frogan yet? First of all, this is the operating, like this is the brain operation that the smartest fans have. What do you mean fire Frogan? From what? Frogan is her own person. She's a content creator on her own. Yes, she mods in this community as well. But like, what do you mean fire Frogan? No. And the answer is fucking no. Over what? Hummus? Shut the fuck up. Okay. Oh my God, I can't believe she wanted to make a 9/11 cake. Yeah, let me act like that is the most scary thing I've ever said from a guy who literally said he wanted to bomb the NRA headquarters, or said that Ben Shapiro would be the first to go to the Holocaust camps. I can't believe Frogan made a edgy joke about 9/11. Oh no. Oh, she must be a terrorist. I guess you can only make edgy jokes if you're not a hijabi woman, you know? Like, what are we doing? Where is the consistency, guys? Come on. Also, it's so stupid. Envy and jealousy are different. Anyway, my point was that for me, I think a lot of people that end up trying to make these arguments about how like Hasan is bad for politics and he's radicalizing his audience, yada yada yada. I think a lot of those people actually unironically are coming at this argument from a place of not like a political disagreement, but they're coming at this argument from a place where they have disagreements over something else, maybe jealousy, maybe envy, maybe anger, right? Or resentment over something. But then they try to turn this into a political disagreement because everyone wants to moralize their consumption, okay? Everyone wants to moralize their consumption. Everyone wants to moralize their call out. They can't just be like, I hate this guy, his vibes are off, okay? Or they can't simply say, I hate this guy because he's successful and I'm not, and we're in the same field, right? Like, oh, I don't like that, he left the Young Turks and was able to reach levels of success on his own. It's not about that. right? It's not about that. It's actually because that person is like audience captured, and that's the reason why he's advocating for the things that he's advocating for. He must not simply believe the things that he's saying. Like all of this stuff is just personal perspectives masquerading as a political disagreement. And as long as there is no real massive political disagreement, I will usually just like let it slide. I don't give a shit. Okay. You also hate your audience to the core. No, I love my audience. I love my community. My community has kept me alive. Okay. If I didn't love my audience and my community, I wouldn't be fucking streaming at 5 a.m. every morning. You also hate your audience to the core. Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. That stuff is ridiculous. Obviously, there are certainly times when I'm very annoyed with members of my community. You know what I mean? And it's understandable. This is a back and forth dialogue that takes place. There's a back and forth dialogue that takes place for 8 hours every day on contentious topics. Clearly, that presents hostility, that creates hostility, and it happens. Anyway, let's get back to Donald Trump.
Weapons. Well, there's a short-term freeze with Mexico, as you know, and with Canada. But they've agreed to be very, very strong on the border, stronger than they ever were by far, by a factor of about 30.
The Trump administration has initiated the drafting of an executive order aimed at beginning the process of phasing out the Department of Education, as reported by sources familiar with the plan to CNN. The order is expected to unfold in two stages. Initially, it will instruct the Secretary of Education to devise a strategy for scaling down the department through executive actions. Additionally, President Trump intends to urge Congress to pass legislation for the department's termination, recognizing that such a move would require congressional approval. During a recent statement, President Trump expressed his desire for Linda McMahon, his nominee for Secretary of Education and former head of the Small Business Administration, to work herself out of a job. If you found this video interesting, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and thanks for watching.